Okay. Thank you for being here this evening. We're calling this meeting to order at 5:01 p.m. I'm glad everybody is here this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Atkins, and this is our budget workshop.
Well, thank you, Madam President, board members. So this is our second budget workshop, and so one of the goals tonight is to talk about compensation and get some guidance on compensation, and the other is to talk about how we start addressing things that aren't necessarily, we can't afford in our budget. So we'll start out as we normally do with looking at our current budgets and where we're at. Revenue-wise, we're right where we expect to be at this time of year. We've collected just about all of the local taxes. The state has 3 more payments to make to us, and then that'll be done. On the expenditure side, you notice that the salaries are under. Again, we've had vacancies since the beginning of the, vacancies since the beginning of the year. Starting, like I said, in December, we still had 250 vacancies. And I think we still have 67 teacher vacancies as we talk today, along with auxiliaries. The other items are coming along well. There's encumbrances out there. We've shut off the POs as of the 15th, but there's a lot of POs that are sitting out there waiting to be paid. Going on to child nutrition, again, they have done a really good job this year of recovering from their previous year. Of course, it helps that all the meals are free. Yes. Next year will be somewhat of a challenge because we're going back to the old system. But we expect them to end the year in the black and put money in fund balance again. And debt service is finished. There really won't be, I apologize, sir. There won't be any more activity in there. We have the allocations for our campuses. We did not adjust the per pupil amount. The only really adjustment was in the number of pupils that each school has, and you can see that in the green columns there. The same with the middle schools. We know supplies are going up in cost, and so we decided to leave those per pupil amounts alone. Does everybody have this presentation?
No.
I apologize.
I'm sharing.
The budget. Yeah,
Oh, see that. I didn't get it. No, ma'am. It's all quite all right.
Okay, we're about 3 or 4 pages in on the campus allocations.
Right there.
Thank you. All right. We're ready now. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
We're not expecting any of the board members. No.
No.
But I will send it to everybody else.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Our last one is the elementary. Now you will notice on the elementary there is one change, and that's at Converse Elementary. You see that we changed the per pupil amount, and that's because of their extended day. I mean their extended year, excuse me. And then we go on to our department allocations, starting out with the board and the superintendent's office. Very little change there. We tried to make minor changes. Dropping down to student services area, you can see an increase in the fine arts. This is for the charter buses if they're needed. Again, I want to reiterate, we're going to be looking at every trip. If we don't need it, we won't use it. Yes, ma'am.
Again, just so I can understand, that where it says Board of Trustees and School Board,
Yes, ma'am.
that really is Betty.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's where your training, your travel, supplies, all that comes from.
Okay,
Yes,
thanks.
And elections would be under, right? Or not?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Elections are the biggest expense.
Yes, sir. You are correct. And so really minor changes here and there. Going on to our Department of Curriculum, again, there was lots of changes in the departments. We've added departments, we've combined departments. Again, minor changes here. The bilingual program you see has additional funds. They have a spend requirement, and so we had to add funds there to make sure that they meet that spend requirement. Okay, going on to the innovation program. You see a big cut in the Wagner T-STEM program, and that's because they used to buy their own Chromebooks, but now the district is providing them the Chromebooks. And then going to technology, and I'm going to take a little time on this one. This one we really combined, and this one is our biggest increase. You can see this budget increased by $3.2 million. And the majority of that is what we've had to do after the cyberware, the increase in the cost of stuff. And so there is on the next page some of the allotment breakdown on what it's being spent on. If you have specific questions, Ms. Gosh and me will try and answer them about what's in that budget. But it was the largest increase in the budget. That's true. That's true. One of the things we're changing is like if a keyboard went out at a campus, the campus had to buy it. Now we're buying it all at the district level.
If a teacher needs a laptop, it's coming from technology, not from the campus. If we need to replace a lab, it's coming from technology, not the campus, and so on.
And mainly that was to make sure that we're buying stuff we can work on, maintain,
Standardized.
quality. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am. Anytime.
Under the library services, the $17,150, what is that for?
Library services.
That is the budget for the district lead librarian, so she's
So that's salaries?
That's not salaries. Those are books and training and support for the library services department.
And where do these funds come out of?
Our general fund.
This is our general fund.
This is, yes, general.
Allocations. Yes, ma'am.
So if we need furniture, we can buy it out of the general fund?
Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Ball.
Yes, ma'am.
I've only been asking how come my kids are sitting on the floor since school started. So I'm just trying to understand why we cannot put furniture in Camelot.
At where at?
Camelot.
Camelot's not our
is not our
Candlewood,
district.
Candlewood. What difference what district it is?
We
Candlewood.
don't pay for other districts.
I went and checked that personally, and there's furniture in the library. At
Well,
Campbell.
they must have hid it from me today.
Okay, I will go back and check it again tomorrow, but I know the last time you brought that up, I did go check, and there was furniture there.
That time you brought it to my attention, Bill sent me pictures. I sent the pictures on the Friday notes at Candlewood.
Camelot. Am I saying the right,
You're
am I saying the
saying-
right one?
Candlewood.
Candlewood.
Camelot's in Northeast.
Okay.
That's what.
I mean, if a school is missing something, they're missing something, it's a part of the district. Shouldn't matter.
But Camelot's not our district.
I'll go check tomorrow myself, Missy.
Thank you, ma'am.
I'll go check. Better yet, I'll go with you. We'll go together.
I'll go with you gladly.
Yes, ma'am. We'll go tomorrow.
Let me know what time you want to go.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no other questions? Then we'll go to the communications department. Here, we have added funds for marketing campaign, as well as you'll notice the print shop is now operating under our communications department, and we have some equipment that is broken, and so we're going to be having to fix that equipment. Athletics, again, the big increase here is for the charter buses if needed. And then we have the new Office of the Chief Equity Officer, and that would just be their office budget. Going on to the business office, The tax office is going up. Of course, appraisals are going up, and we get charged on the collection of the taxes based upon that. The mailroom is going up because mail went up again. I think it's over 50-something cents now to mail a letter. Transportation's going up because of fuel. Employee services is going up just because of maintaining the software that we have in that office. Maintenance is going up. The parts have just become outrageous to get.
If you can get 'em.
And fuel for the
Yes.
trucks and everything? Yeah.
Energy management's going up. Electricity's going up. Water's going up. Sewer's going up. Everything's going up.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, ma'am.
On the fuel though, do we have our own pumping station in the yard?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, cool. So we
Yes.
buy it in bulk and?
Yes, ma'am.
keep
They
our
come and
tank full?
deliver it, and then they fill up the buses there at the yard.
Okay. Do they use diesel?
Both diesel and gas.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Sir, quick
Yes.
question. On the diesel, are we using red fuel for the schools or not?
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude, but the board members are the
Oh, okay.
only ones. I
Okay.
apologize.
Not a problem.
If you send it to me, email it to me, and I'll answer your question. J Ball?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful.
And then the custodial supplies goes up again because of the increased cost in custodial supplies. And then the big one is our insurance. And we don't know if, we estimated here getting cyber insurance. We've turned in the application, but we don't know whether they will accept it or not. We have the same policy that we had prior to this, but we're trying to get the upgraded policy. So if we can't get that, a lot of this won't get spent. But I know our vehicle insurance is going up 10%, and property is supposed to go up about 30%.
So this will be, when you spoke with us last about what the insurance covered with the malware situation, this is going to be something that would cover that
Yes,
now?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. That's what we've applied for. We just don't know whether they'll
Approve
accept. In fact, it's getting hard to even get cyber insurance
I
because
mean,
of the
they should
number
be
of
happy now.
attacks.
We done fixed everything. Yeah.
And then we have a new budget for the chief of staff, and she also has the leadership development and Holdsworth there, and then human resources. And that really takes all of our allocations for our campuses and departments. Any questions on those?
I know this is our initial budget review for this, right?
Yes, sir.
The detail, I'll look at the example election board, where we do know that elections fall under the board, and there are other things involved. Will
Our
we get a
training.
breakdown for every department? Because I like seeing it like this, but I really want to know where all the allocations are. So can we get that provided?
We can once we get it in the system. What I'm trying to do is get the allocations kind of approved tonight, and once I get in the system, I can print you out a budget for each one.
Okay, so, but the allocations within them, you already know what's in that budget for that, right?
Right.
And again, and that's what I'd like to see. I know that when we do our program review, that's going to be another expectation, that we have every expense item in that department, what that looks like. And so, and traditionally, we would have seen the breakdown under the board, what those expenses equal to that total. I can appreciate the allocation, but I mean, we're not going to approve this allocation today formally. Is that the expectation?
No, we're not approving anything today. I want to answer any questions and just get feedback is what I
And
need
get
to do.
direction and clarification.
Sure, okay, that's fine. And so then in the future, I can expect that more detailed breakdown.
Sure.
Thank you, Bill.
Yes, sir. Okay, so budget assumptions, we've changed a little bit of our budget assumptions. We were using a ADA of 2140. I'm using the ADA of 2230 because that's what we're going to have this year. Of course, some of that is a hold harmless, but I'm hoping that we grow a little bit. So not as conservative as I usually am, but we have a pretty big deficit. The taxable values, Bear County has not posted the values. Typically, they're due on the 25th. We checked again today, and there's no values posted, so I apologize, but we're just continuing to use a 3% increase. I can almost guarantee you it's going to be more,
Oh, yeah.
but I don't know what. Again, the estimated tax collections of 98%. Once we get the values, the M&O tax rate will change because of the compression requirement. So that will change between now and next meeting. And then, of course, we have the campus allotments. We did our staffing based on our district formula. And, of course, there's the increased technology budget. So when we talk about compensation, and I just want to start saying I wish I could recommend a 10% raise for everybody. I really do, you know. But typically we give a 2% raise. So the first one there in the blue box is a typical 2% raise at the midpoint. You see that we're estimating revenue of $224 million, and expenses with a 2% would be $239 million, so about a $14.7 million deficit. We did, I think, agree to give the ESSER incentive, so you see that at the bottom. The second one is a raise we've given before. It's a professionals 2%, para and auxiliary 3%. And that leaves us with a $15 million deficit. Option 3 is the TASB Model 3. It's a 2% raise with adjustments in the teacher scale to be above the median, and some adjustments in some of the other scales. It also puts our bus drivers starting out at $16 an hour, and it gives us a $16.9 million deficit. The last one, we tried to take some of the comments we heard last Thursday and plug them in. And so it is a 10% raise, not at the midpoint, just a 10% raise for teachers and professionals. It says professionals there, but we weren't able to break out the teachers real quickly. But of that 11 million, 9 million of that would be the teacher cost.
And that's under option 3?
4. And then moving the auxiliary and paras up to $20 an hour is a 42% raise, and that would cost $15 million. And so we would end up with a either, if you include the professionals at the 10%, a $37 million, almost $38 million deficit. If you don't, then it would be a $35 or $36 million deficit.
So I just want to clarify, because we have people in the audience here and people who will listen to the meeting, that everybody's all, talking about, the big increase in values of homes and that people's taxes will go up. But what people don't understand is that what one hand giveth, the other hand taketh away. And so that is offset by what the state gives us. So if we get more in local revenue, we get less in state revenue. So it's not a big increase here for us. So there's not a big windfall for us to pull from for huge salary increases. And I just want to make that clear for anybody who, school finance is incredibly complicated and hard to understand, but that is one of the big concepts that needs to get out there to the public.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
that when we start talking about, this is a $37 million, almost $38 million dip into the fund balance that probably will not be replenished by an increase in the money that we get in increased taxes.
Yes, ma'am. That is true. Very good point.
What's in our fund balance right now, Bill?
So the fund balance, if you look at the bottom number, is $110 million, but that has, there's some in reserve values in there, such as for inventories. We have reservations for outstanding accounts payables that were at the end of the year. So our unencumbered fund balance is 106 million. And then remember earlier on when we started our self-funded healthcare plan, we moved 4 million out of there. So really, our unencumbered fund balance is $102 million.
And 3 months worth of salary, I mean, that's the recommendation, have 3 months worth of payroll expenses, operational expenses in the fund balance. So
Right.
if you deducted that 3 months, what would that leave us with? What's our month?
3 months, well, I mean, if we're $240 million, that would be about,
Annually,
right, annually. So that would be about
Usually we get
24.
We get a report, 12 or 13 million, I think, that I noticed as a payroll expense.
Right.
To sort of give us a gauge, so that's increased, say 50, so 45 million, maybe
Right.
60 million on up. So if we're like 106 million,
102 right now.
102 million, so
Well, and actually, there's also 4 million in the workers' comp fund, so really it's 98.
I'm definitely not advocating that we spend the difference, but I really want to understand what that difference is so that we know what to work with. We do have some expenses as a result of the bonds not passing that we probably will look at to address that will have to use such funds. But it sounds like we're in a very healthy position
Yes, sir.
right now for that. Okay, and another thing I wanted to add, as I'm looking at options 1, 2, and 3, 4, and I know this is initial conversation, getting direction, nothing is set in stone, but I think we had some discussion several months ago about being strategic about some of our strategies in compensation. One of them that I'd like us to do is look at what that strategy would look like in terms of, I think Dr. Ballot talked about it, compensating based on enrollment on campus. Compensation based on where we see the biggest deficiencies right now, which would probably be in middle school, or maybe supporting 3rd and 5th grade with overtures of additional teacher aides. Things like that would need to be incorporated into this discussion to see what the budget would look like. But the other thing that I think is important to note is that we need to do a salary adjustment. I spoke with people on my advisory committee as well as people in other districts, and a true story, I got a call from a board member saying, "You're stealing our janitorial service, custodial staff going to Judson. We increased the wage there. So naturally it's happening." And they said, "So we got to get them back because we're hurting too." But what comes out of all that is we've increased the entry-level wage. We never adjusted the salary rates for those that have been with the district for 5, 10, 15 years. They're making comparatively just a little bit more than somebody who just entered. So is this part of this plan yet?
And that's one of the things that TASB did, is they went in and looked at all of the scales and made some of those adjustments.
So that's already included in here,
Yes.
in the adjustment? So if I had to ask right now, what's our entry level for custodial? Is it 14?
14, I believe custodial is 14.
Okay, so $14, and then so what did the adjustment do, since we're here talking about budget, now to increase somebody who's making $16 or whatever, somebody who's been here a long time that fits that criteria of being with the district for a long time, that we've adjusted their salary? Would it show?
I don't have every single line item.
Because that's
I'm
what
gonna
I
have
want
to
to
get
make
that
sure.
from Ted.
At the end of the day, I want to make sure that we've addressed those issues and that we can retain our experienced professionals too in that field. It's great to bring them over, but we want to retain those that have the experience. So I would like to, before this whole process is done and we pass a budget in June, what that looks like so that we can communicate that to folks who may be concerned about their wages. So that means, but that also means maybe there's other areas like paraprofessionals that might need that support, but I'm not sure if there's adjustments. I just know in transportation, and I know in janitorial or custodial services. But if there are other pockets that we should examine for retention, I hope to have that brought forward to the board for us to talk about.
And just so you know, when we made those, we compressed the bottom of the scale last year to get to the 14. We did go in and have to adjust up because these people were making more than people that were making 15 years. So we did go in and make adjustments. We
Yep.
looked at every single employee and made adjustments to make sure that if you were here 5 years, you were making more than you were here 4 years.
And you did that last year, you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when would you do that? Supposedly it's already in here, right? Because the adjustments were
Right,
made.
TASB came in and they took the scale back down, right? I mean, not lowering the amount, the dollar amount, but we just spread the scale back out.
So that should be easy then to identify. But just one of those things like that, I would like to know what that difference looks like.
I would have to get that from TASB because they just gave me the 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. So
Sure.
we'll have to get that from TASB.
But just some effort to relieve any concerns from employees who have that tenure of experience, so that we know that we are doing something. But then secondly, what can the board do, if anything, to adjust as necessary? Because again, TASB's recommendation is a recommendation.
Correct.
We ultimately need to go forward with what's going to be best for our employees and for our community. And so anyway, I just say that because I would like to see that, but I'll be patient and we'll look at that information going forward too.
But in the big picture of things, because I need some guidance in order to bring a pay scale back in May. That's my goal. Guidance on where you want to go.
I would like to see at least a 5% pay raise and see what that looks like. I kind of gathered it from what's here, but, just what it would look like.
Okay.
Could you tell me, see, 5% for teachers and 5% for paras also, so we can...
Across the board.
Across the board? Okay.
And we can look at just teachers and we can look at just paraprofessionals.
I just
what?
wanna
I'm
take-
sorry, I didn't hear that last.
Oh, Dr. Baldy.
Yeah,
We
I just
good.
want to take some notes, and she said 5% for teachers and for paraprofessionals.
And auxiliary.
And auxiliary.
So when you say teachers, you're talking about and librarians and nurses?
Yes.
Okay,
Everything in that classification.
okay.
I would also add though, and I'll use Dr. Paul's why she's very good at saying this because she means it. No disrespect to our senior staff who are making a lot of money, but our compensation would have to be adjusted for higher salary employees. Anyone over 80,000 or 75, whatever that threshold would be, that percentage would be lower than the 5% that teachers, librarians, and nurses would receive. Not to say you're not working hard, but the scale of things, we have opportunity there. So if it's a 2.5% increase opposed, I mean, it's still going to it's going to still help, but you guys are at the top tier of compensation, and we're trying to really help those at the bottom and our teachers, the bulk of our employees, with more support. So having a differentiation like that, I think, could be helpful for us to look at.
I don't disagree. We have to be careful because if you get the two scales too close, it is really hard for teachers to become administrators.
What do you mean by that?
So I had a teacher that was a 30-year teacher, and she wanted to be an assistant principal. And it was the year the state forced us to give the teachers a 5-point-something raise, and all we could afford to give administrators was 2%. Well, in order for her to be an assistant principal, which she really wanted to be, she had to take a pay cut. And so, and we worked hard in this district. Right now, it used to be that a 7-year teacher would make what an entering vice principal would do. Me and Marco worked on that scale a couple of years ago, and now it's about a 14 or 15-year teacher would equal to what a starting AP salary would be. And so like I said, I understand where you're going, but I just want to caution that if we get them too close, then you're not going to be able to get administrators.
Well, I would say that a 30-year professional is nice. We don't have a lot of 30-year teachers. So, and I think the board, as administration, can bring forth a budget amendment to address that salary deficiency if we were to come across that problem and take it essentially case by case if necessary. I don't want that to be a hindrance to at least looking at what that would look like. And naturally, if we have somebody who meets that criteria, there's always an anomaly. We would need to address that anomaly appropriately. We should be able to do that, right? As a board, we would look at something during the year to adjust the salary if it was woefully not the right position for that.
Yeah, I mean, we make mistakes too, and if we see that mistake, we adjust that salary to where it should be.
It wouldn't be a mistake. It just,
Well,
but it would just be what happened.
last year it was because we hand typed in every salary, so there were a few little issues.
I didn't blame him for a second, Bill. Again, just to reiterate, I'm more about detail, and I can't stress the fact that we need to support our identified areas of my book, middle school, as well as 3rd and 5th grade, and there needs to be something earmarked to support them. If it's not in compensation, since we're talking budget, it's additional teacher aides, it's additional resources to help them. And so I know the compensation is a big deal, but I would tell you, teachers have told me, if you bring me more support, that's just as valuable as you increasing my salary. It reduces the stress that I have in the classroom, and that's invaluable. And so I believe that. So I need to know that this is going to be part of that discussion, because I don't want to just arbitrarily give a 5% raise without looking at where the need truly is. And so that means we just got to roll our sleeves up and get down to where the need is. If you guys come back and tell me, let's just do 3rd and 5th grade because we can't afford to do anything more than that, then fit that in this proposal. But I want to make sure that we're inclusive of areas that need support.
Excuse me, are you talking about paying a higher salary for 3rd and 5th grade teachers?
Not necessarily.
Because then that wouldn't be included in what we're talking about here.
It wouldn't. What I'm looking at, and just one board member with one idea, adding teacher aides to 3rd and 5th grade, are adding additional teachers in middle school to lower the teacher-student ratio within middle school as an identified strategy to bringing that support. It's something that I want to make sure is explored here, and we don't miss that opportunity to offer support in those areas. We could probably make a case that we know where some of the deficiencies are in middle school. What do the opportunities look like, and what could this do to help? So that's what I'm talking about specifically.
Well, I'd like to go back a moment to what you were talking about with the administration. And I want to be very careful that we don't create the type of situation we seem to have had in the past where certain people, when we're adjusting and doing what you talked about, certain people appeared to be treated more favorably than other people without necessarily groundwork for that. So I want us to be sure that we're not just going in and adjusting this person's salary and that person's salary without taking a look at the whole, because then it seems to say that this person is my favorite, so they get more money. And I don't want that perception at all. So we need to be really careful about what we do at that level like that.
Are you talking about individual
Yeah, I'm
people?
not understanding that. It would be uniform to anyone over 80,000 or more. There would be no picking and choosing.
But you said if somebody came out and it looked like it was too low, then we would adjust that person's salary. That's what I'm talking about.
With an AP position, and they have 30 years of experience, and if we have somebody that fits that scenario, in all fairness, we should look at it. I say that's an anomaly. It won't be a predominant issue, so let's move forward in trying to do the best we can. If Bill tells me, Mr. Macias, I've done the work, there'd be 200 employees that would be impacted because they all want to be assistant principals, and this wouldn't work, then that's a whole different ballgame. But no, I'm not.
I just want us to be very careful that we don't appear to be playing favorites.
Absolutely, no, it's a uniform process. So.
Mr. Macias, I just want clarification, we bring this back. So it's more looking at aides, not the salary for 3rd, 4th, and middle school, right?
It turns out that you can justify increasing salaries in that area, and that's going to be more cost effective. It's still giving a boost in morale to those teachers. My guess is it's going to be more impactful to bring aides in, or additional resources. So if we were to talk with our campus middle schools, what do you need? What's going to help change the game? Then I'm open to other resources. But in my opinion, it's going to be teacher aides. But again, they're the experts in the field. They know better than I even do. So that's what I'm saying. Just add that on to this as a strategy so that we're being more strategic about what we're trying to accomplish, as opposed to just uniform pay raise increase.
I guess, we were I don't guess, I know that we were concentrating the most on salaries, because on the survey, I felt that that's what the staff spoke loudest about, is that that's what they wanted, is increase in salary.
And I'm going to tell you something, being very candid here.
Sure.
I was very tired by the time Nicole gave that presentation. I asked no questions because it was late and we had to reserve whatever energy I had. But since you brought it up, I'm going to talk about that survey.
Sure.
The survey was great, and I appreciated you taking the initiative. I remember requesting that survey. But it failed to ask, in lieu of compensation, what would you want? That's what I ultimately wanted to find out, because everyone's going to say, we want more money. That's usually what's going to be said.
That's what I was saying.
I want to know, in lieu of money, what would you want for us to do to make your work here better? And that question was not directly asked in that manner. So we have to kind of just swim and now get to that point. We can't, looking at these options, one option would put us 37 million in the hole. That's not a good place for us to be. So if we can add A's and only be half of that, that's better. But I need to know what our staff or what our teachers need in lieu of compensation to stay. And I would tell you, reduced class sizes would help. I would tell you additional resources to support their classroom would help. Anyway, there are other options, and that's what I'm looking for. I was hopeful that the survey would identify other things that would say, yeah, I'm happy here. It could even be generically saying a day off. And I'm not saying that is, but it's just an idea. What more would it take for an employee to be happy here? And that's something I think that was missed on the survey. But certainly, I heard compensation, and I get it. But as Ms. Kennard always points out, the way you draft the question, the way you ask it, if you're going to get the type of response you want. So the response I want is, if we can't pay you, what can we do to make this change? And teachers will say, we want to be heard. We want input in the campus. It's just things that we can do to change the quality. It could be a barbecue every week. Stuff like that that would enhance the morale there at the campus. And still let them know that we appreciate their work and we're here to support them. But in all seriousness, I think more aides in middle school and possibly 3rd and 5th grade is going to be a very critical strategic step for us to consider. Okay. Does that help, Dr. Ball?
Yes.
Okay, so some of the other things that we currently have that are benefits for our employees is we added a incentive for our bus drivers that stay with us all year. So if they've been with us all year, they get a $500 retention incentive. We provide a $30,000 life insurance per employee. We pay the $355 towards the health insurance. And we have our mental health for our employees where they can have up to 5 free sessions, them and their family. And we average about 50 a month going to the mental health.
That's an increase.
Yes, quite an increase.
I'm glad they're taking advantage of that, though. That's
Yes.
important.
Yes.
And Bill, just stop you. Just came to me right now as you were talking about the $355 per month in insurance. That's for every employee?
Every employee that takes health insurance.
Okay. So naturally, if someone's transportation or custodial staff is paying that month in insurance, are we able to look at putting more towards employees that make less so that their bottom line is brought up? I'm just putting it out there because I don't know the answer. Would we be able to say, for example, we'll pay for $500 if you make $30,000 or less in the district? And that way it saves $145 from their paycheck. It goes back in their pocket. You see what I'm saying? So that helps. But what would it cost? What would it look like? But could we do that? Sure. So I certainly would look at that option too. If it meant we couldn't adjust salary in some other way, but we could pay more towards insurance. The problem we have is that what we've talked about in the past, not all our employees take insurance. So it's not like we usually benefit, but maybe that changes things for next January.
Well,
And not all of them need it. The military, I mean,
Yeah,
come on.
and that's, I'm going to say, that's what some employees, I think, are going to have an issue. If they have insurance through a spouse or something like that, then they feel kind of,
They don't get that money.
they didn't get anything.
Which then goes back to then the salary adjustments and if that's going to be a route. But certainly keeping options open for us as we try to navigate supporting our employees. Right. Thank you.
So this is just a budget that was based upon the TASB model.
Sure.
Like I said, just want to look at where we're at with fund balance. So we think we're going to end up this year, that first column, about $1 million in the hole. Hopefully we'll break even. And so looking at, and I'm just using what's on the audit, the 106 million fund balance down there. We take $1 million out, and then if we did the TASB model, we would take 16.9 out, and so we'd end up about 88 million at the end of next year. I guess what would help us the most is, I don't mind bringing back options, but what deficit is the board comfortable with?
Yes,
That would
that
at
would
least give me
definitely
a target to try and shoot for.
Well, the issue with compensation is that once we do this, it doesn't go away. It's not a one-year expense. And so that means dipping into a fund balance year after year after year, unless we do something to increase the number of students that we have, which is why giving a great big raise, with a $36 million deficit, we could do that for 2 years. And then we're back in the same business where, we don't have money in fund balance truly to cover something like that. I'm comfortable with maintaining about 50 million.
Okay.
In the fund balance?
Yes.
And now that's unencumbered, correct?
Right. Because I think we're at a point where we shouldn't have huge unexpected expenses. And of course, I say that, and then look what happened 2 years ago.
Right.
But I would never want to go lower than that right now.
Okay.
That's me personally.
Don't we have a limit, a trigger point in place right now anyway?
I don't think there's a mandatory trigger point, no ma'am?
I thought we, as Judson had set one at one point.
Yeah, but it's below that amount.
I just remember us discussing
Yeah.
it. That's why I brought it up. That's all.
Yeah,
But
I think that there's a board directive that the fund balance is never,
Oh, okay.
We'll
Yeah.
have to look at it.
Yeah,
Because
I'll
we
have to
talked
look that up,
about
but
it.
I didn't know
Aware of
anything
that.
about that.
I
Yeah, we
remember being
talked
told
about
that.
it. Pretty expensive.
Do you remember that,
I
Mr.
remember
Macias?
something, 3 months is all I said. I don't
But
know.
that's from the state. I think that the board had something that Mr.
Yeah.
LaFoyle used to
As a
talk
board,
about.
we did set something
Do you
in place.
remember that, Ms. Pichelle?
I do not.
I think, I do remember, but I think it may be to allocate funds towards acquisition of land. That's what I keep playing in my back of my mind, that we had set some policy for that. But certainly, let's
But it
look up.
was, whatever it was less than 50.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Definitely.
So, I appreciate the overall, but this year, in adopting a budget,
Right.
what kind of deficit would you be
Gotcha.
comfortable
Oh, I
with?
understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
So for
yeah, I
this
was
year.
gonna come back next.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't want us to go to 50 million this year. I just
Right.
never want us
I was confused. Mr. Miller.
because to do that means that that's an ongoing expense and you can't
Yeah.
keep dipping.
Correct.
Out of these three options, out of these four options.
No, I mean, we will come back with some of the
Okay.
things that have been suggested here, but if
If you
I'm
went-
comfortable with a deficit of
Like, if you were to say
15
20
million.
million deficit, we're still okay with that.
then,
15, whatever number your heart.
when we start looking at the options,
Right.
we can try and stay around
I
that
see.
area.
I don't think we should go more than
15, 16.
20 would be I think my max to dip.
And I would add, Bill, that since we're trying to be strategic, and my recommendation is to look at certain areas for that support, that it be a 3-year expenditure. Because to Mr. Norman's point, we can't add this expense for the rest of our life, and all of a sudden we have no fund balance. So it would have to be strategic. We have to determine and validate within the 2 to 3 year period, did adding teacher aides to 3rd and 5th grade really help performance? Did supporting our middle school really work, so that we can backtrack in a couple of years or 3 years without it compounding our revenue? Because we do have a little safety net with ESSER funds, allowing us to use $4 million of it this time around. We're not going to have that forever. That ends. So certainly want to do that now while we have some wiggle room, but not indefinitely. And if we have to stipulate that we're going to review this in 2 years, then we need to be very clear to folks that this is our plan for the next 2 years. And if it works, and if we see tremendous progress, then I'll push to find money for it somewhere else. But right now, I think I want you to be clear, and everyone here to be clear, my intent is to infuse some strategy into our compensation, but not make it indefinite. To answer your original question, I would be comfortable with 20 million, as well as Mr. Kanoy had mentioned. But I would also want to make sure that we're measuring that investment and that it is strategic. That we know that 20 million is going to retain our employees, it's going to help students in the classroom, and it's going to improve student achievement. It needs to all tie in, because that's what the money is there for, right? And we all know that. So we just need to know if you come back and it's a $20 million deficit, on top of the $4 million that we're already pledging from ESSER, otherwise it'd be $24 million. Whatever we're doing better work, we're going into negative by some serious dollars. That's, I guess that would be my point. So when you come back and you do say, Mr. Messias, you asked for, if we put teacher aides in 3rd grade classrooms, what that would look like. 5th grade, this is the expense. I'm expecting it to go up, but I'm okay with putting it for the next couple of years if it changes the course of our district.
Yes, it would be great to see a breakdown of what that looks like at the 20.
At the 20.
And I just want us to throw it out there, Mr. Macias, I know you're talking about teacher aides, but we're having a lot of difficulty getting just the ones that we need now. So we need to be thinking about what else then, because it's quite possible that we might set aside money for that and we can't get the people. And so we can't rely on just that strategy. We got to think about other things.
We do, and I'm optimistic we've passed a waiver for teacher exemptions, certification exemptions. I think we should be able to find aides. I think I remember having a conversation with Dr. Paul, and that's going to be easier to find teacher aides than teachers that are certified. So if it turns out that we can't find even teacher aides, then again, back to what can we do to support our staff in the field? What's going to help?
Right.
And
So we need more of a laundry list than just relying on just that one thing.
yeah, but I'm willing to put some optimism behind finding teacher aides in the classroom. I know that a lot of daycare facilities may have, I don't know, I'm just saying there are a lot of options potentially that can lure folks over to help wherever we need to help. And if we can't find them, then Dr. Ball and HR will tell us we can't find them, then we'll just readjust. But that money won't be wasted. It's not like we put it allocated and, oh, well, we spent it. It's unspent.
I agree, but
Just redirect it.
but then if it's a strategy that that we can't fulfill, we need to be able to shift the funds and have something else to back up to.
I'd be agreeable.
Do we have any idea approximately how many 3rd, 5th
Yeah, it's about
grade
to ask, I was like, is that
teachers in the district?
feasible? Yeah.
Because that's I know that that's at 3rd and 5th grade. There's at least 5 per campus at each grade level. So you're looking at 10
Depending on the
times
size
20.
of the campus.
You're looking at 200 just at elementary.
And I'm open to administrative recommendations as long as they touch base with the campus. If there's a campus that needs more support, Candlewood based on its location versus Rolling Meadows based on its location, we talk through that to determine if we need to be strategic. Now, all I'm saying is let's be strategic about where we allocate support. And there could be a case made that some schools need more support than others.
And as we're looking at supporting our board goals, maybe we don't want to look at necessarily third and fifth, but look at the grade levels that are part of that cohort moving up towards our goals and put it there to help close those gaps. So that would be something that we would want, curriculum and
Yeah,
innovation to those departments to look at and come back with a suggestion on if we can make sure that we have no gaps going up,
That would
then
be great.
we're going to more likely to hit our targets.
I'm
Yes.
absolutely agreeable. I'm not married to third and fifth. I know it's an important grade to start, but certainly if it's second and fourth, or if it's sixth grade and seventh.
Well, I'm thinking maybe more primary grades first, so that we're making sure those students come in with that robust foundation and look at perhaps some other schools where we need to fill some gaps.
When you say primary, it's broad. What do you mean specifically?
K2,
Okay.
we don't have aides in K2. And for us to do that's where the science of reading training is going. So for us to truly implement that and make sure that we have that broad base of success.
I guess I would be okay with that, but I don't want to diminish our deficiencies in middle school.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
And so
I'm saying,
I'd
but if
like
we're
to
looking
look
at putting
both.
a,
I'd like to look at both.
and then that's what I'm saying, is we put a focus there and then target at certain schools perhaps, specific classrooms, math or reading or whatever it
Reading
is,
is a big-
instead of, we're looking very specifically. If this campus is doing really well,
So basically looking at the campus needs.
exactly,
Whoever needs the extra support is.
Exactly.
Is what we.
And I'm very agreeable to that. Again, I just don't have all the answers, I just know the vision that I have, and I'm open to having this discussion, and I'll be okay with that. I'm good with that, to do.
well, I just want to make sure that we're bringing everything back to our board goals, which is one of the things that we're supposed to be doing, so that's.
Absolutely.
I have a question, Dr. Ball.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there, and I'm sure it's being tracked, like with ELOF, okay? Are we tracking the attraction of the program that's developed there now as far as the increased number of students?
Yes, ma'am. We do look and see which students are going to that campus that wouldn't normally reside, the transfers, basically.
Right. And so we're having a nice increase and parents are interested, because I hear a lot of chatter, some of the parents really like that program.
Yes, definitely the parents like it. I wouldn't say that the increase from students outside that attendance zone is as high as we would want it to be.
Is there something we can do to help with that? Maybe, like in our representation, that we put forth for registration. I see the signs everywhere, even little ones, one's right by my subdivision, Judson's registering, and it's at the marquees and stuff, to let parents and students know that, we have these special
We
programs.
can definitely work on that. I think a lot of the parents also still like the convenience of them being at the campus closest to their home.
Okay.
And with it being the first year, I think when we have students who've gone through a whole year and parents going through a whole year, there's going to be more buzz about it with satisfaction.
And
that'll be something
that's
that
what
I
I'm
think we'll
getting
see
at.
grow.
Yeah.
Once people start talking about how it went for their kid during the year.
Like, for example, and Ms. Davis can talk more about this, they're going on a fabulous trip to NASA. So I'm sure that parents, once they hear about this trip, the kids tell their friends, I think that that'll help them say, oh, wow, I want to go to NASA too.
Yeah.
I had fun at NASA. Says, yeah, just real quick.
That campus is going to hold a space camp just for students in attendance there as a way to culminate their end of year experience this first year. And they're going to finish their program with an overnight stay at NASA.
Any chaperones?
I'm sure to contact
Ms.
Mr.
Eaton
Wilson.
and I will go.
No, but I like that. I like that. And you're absolutely right. This is going to be the end of the first year, so we need to kind of like play it up big so that people can see, Because I'm
Publicity
sure
about
you've
that.
noticed I'm on every campus's Facebook page, and I'm sharing stuff all the time. My family's like, wow, But, okay, thank you. I was just curious about the draw.
No, great question.
And Dr. Ball, that does actually bring another question. we're test piloting in a sense, the summer program, the year-round program at Converse. So when are we going to get an assessment if that's working? Because if it is, naturally other campuses probably should be included in that pilot. So when will we be doing our
I want to give them a little bit more than 1 year because, you know, the 1 year you're really working out a lot of the fine tuning and, you know, just getting it to flow right. So I would say at least 2.5 to 3 years to do a comparison. Because there's also been just so much constant.
This is year one for them, right? Just reopen the same campus. Okay, I'm eager to see it. I'm proud to have that program there.
Yeah. And we'll do the same thing for ELOC too, to see.
And this is not year one for ELOC.
Yes.
Yes, it is.
All the cool stuff is in your
I came
area.
back, best part. Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to our child nutrition budget. Again, we think we're going to end the year with about $500,000. And that would increase their fund balance. And then next year, we think food costs are going up. They were able to use a lot of the grants for food this year. I talked to Ms. Concha today, and she said the grant money's out. I got to start buying food again. I said, okay. So that's why we think it's going to be a little more close next year. And debt service, we're going to end up negative this year because of some of the defeasance, but we have a healthy fund balance there. And of course, next year we're projecting a balanced budget in debt service like we usually do. Any questions on that part of the presentation?
Now, you said that they're getting ready to go back to the, I'm sorry, I forgot the lady's name that did.
Ms. Concha.
Ms. Concha, in her presentation, I apologize for forgetting her name, but she was saying that they're getting ready to go back to, you know, students having to pay and stuff. So all that's factored into this year-end budget as well?
Yes, ma'am, because actually their revenue will probably go down because all of the meals being free mean we got reimbursed for every student that ate. And so once we start charging again, our participation will go down.
Oh, wow. Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. So this is just a little more in-depth look at the compensation, and like we said, we did talk about the TASB Model 3. This is it with more of a breakdown. I think y'all have seen this before, and kind of what our salary would be. If we did that, it'd be about almost $200 million out of the, you know, we'd be running 85, 86% of our revenue again with compensation. Again, these are just some more in-depth as we look at that compensation. And I think Scott did this so I could see it. So,
And we appreciate that, and we can see it too, a little bit bigger.
when you go past option 4, we've done some current salary comparisons with surrounding districts, and you can see our current starting teacher salary, where we lie compared to other districts. And then our 20-year teacher and where we lie in relation to other districts. And then we're going to look at a comparison by turnover rate, where we rank in relation as far as turnover rate, 3-year average. We rank pretty much right there in the middle. And then student-teacher ratio on the right side. And we rank, looks like 5th, but Like I said, Fort Sam, Houston, and Alamo Heights really aren't big comparisons. Navarro's not a big comparison. Southwest is probably a comparison. So I think we do pretty well when we come to student-teacher ratio. And part of that works into salary because, if you've got more teachers, it's harder to give the raise. If you have less teachers, I know East Central announced a 5% raise, but you can see that their student-teacher ratio is 17. So we also looked at, the question came up about a midpoint raise and a straight raise. And so this is what a straight raise would look like if we just did a 2% straight raise on each part of the scale. That's what it would do. A 0-year teacher would get 1,074, and a 25-year teacher would get a 1,237. And one of the reasons why most districts do not do that is because it really explodes the top of your scale. It really does. And then the next one is we have the midpoint, which is where we come in, and on our scale we have a 40-year scale. So we look at the year 20, we take that, we multiply it by 2%, and everybody would get the same dollar amount down the scale. And then we looked at it, what is our current salary, what the straight raise would be, and then what the 2% at the midpoint would be through year 30. It's hard to get the 40 years on there. And so you can see there are some differences, both negative and positive, depending on where you're at on the scale. If you're on the lower end of the scale, the midpoint helps. If you're on the higher end of the scale, the straight raise helps.
Could we get a breakdown of number of teachers at each year of experience?
Yes. You get that.
Because I know that there's been a change in the number of more experienced teachers, and I just kind of like to get a ballpark look at what we're looking at, how many teachers would be affected if we look at doing midpoint versus straight.
And then we also went around and we checked on what we could find. Most districts are very secretive on posting what they pay their bus drivers. I think Scott spent about 3 hours trying to get some of this.
They don't want us to steal them.
Yeah, and we seem to do pretty well. San Antonio is evidently knocking it out of the park, but we seem to be kind of in the ballpark, but we know everybody's still having trouble finding bus drivers, so there's going to have to be an increase there. Any other questions on compensation or suggestions?
Just a comment. I always want to give as much of a raise as we can without hurting district finances. And I know the rest of the board feels that way as well. And I just want people who are listening to know that we're trying to balance being able to maintain operations over a period of years with rewarding our wonderful employees with as big a raise as we can, particularly this year when we're seeing inflation at a degree we haven't in a long time, and when especially so many of our employees who are on the lower end of the pay scale have had so much truly that affected them during the pandemic. And so I just want to say that so that people understand that we really do want to do the best we can.
So now, there's always things we can't afford in the budget.
Oh, yeah.
And so I want to kind of switch and go to this other presentation and go to page 39. And this was given at the growth and planning the other night. So we wanted to make sure y'all got it. And so on page 39, this is the projection of where we will be enrollment-wise moving forward. And if you look at the moderate projection, in 3 years, we could add 1,068 students. In 10 years, it would be 1,589. And so I think our concern is, as you go to page 40, so this is what our capacity utilization would be with the moderate growth. And you can see at the elementary, we're right at the 100%. And a lot of the rest were at the 96, 94%. And that's just plain numbers, right? But if you go and you look at page 42, this is looking at, like I said, if we could put 22 kids in every classroom, that's what that first graph would look like. But unfortunately, they don't come to us in the 22 pack. And so this is looking at it in a moderate growth scenario with a factor of 95. And you can see how many of our elementaries will be over capacity.
Wow.
That's those high growth areas that
Yes,
we're
ma'am.
Yes.
predicting. Yeah.
And then I believe the next page, 43, is our middle schools. Kitty Hawk and Metzger are almost already. Kitty Hawk is, and Metzger's right there.
Right behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Those all over. There's
And
that
then
back there.
finally, our
On 41.
high schools, and that is Judson and Wagner are over.
He didn't get that.
So we didn't make it on?
It's good.
Oh,
The high school's not as tough.
It stops with the middle school.
okay. Betty will have this for you, so I'll send that to you electronically.
Thank you, sir.
So when we start talking about school transportation, going back to the other presentation, I brought some statistics on our buses because we heard a lot about buses. And so the top two graphs are a layout of our buses by mileage, our regular bus fleet by mileage. And you can see the majority of our buses have 140 to 160,000 miles on them. That first graph, top on the left. And then if you go to the top to the right, we're looking at buses by age, and you can see the majority of our buses are 12 to 13 years old. We did do a maintenance tax note, and so that's where the big 4 comes in. There. Our special ed buses, we looked at those by mileage, and again, the majority of them are around 160 to 200,000 miles. And then age-wise, between 7 and 14, looks like, is about where the majority of those are. And of course, we don't have any buses planned in the budget. So
But we need more buses.
Yeah.
we need more buses. And not that we need more, We've got buses that are coming to end of life.
We need
Right.
to replace.
We need
We
drivers
need
right now.
replacement, yes.
Yeah, we have buses, we just can't put drivers in them, but the buses we do have are coming
Right.
end of life.
Yes.
And so the next one is some of the stuff we talked about. A regular bus is about 125 to 130,000. A sped bus is 109,000. Delivery time is between 3 and 12 months. One of the manufacturers told us today, if you order it today, I'll have it to you next March. Okay. We have 126 full-size buses and 44 sped buses. 53 of the full-size buses were purchased within the last 10 years and 17 of the sped buses in the last 10 years. So again, just trying to give some information about some of the things that we can't put in our budget. And some of the strategies we're doing, the sped buses that we bought last night will help our life skills kids. They won't need a bus driver. We can train the teacher or an aide to drive that bus when they go out midday to HEB or to CC's Pizza, or wherever they go to work with the children. And so we're trying to do that. Career and Tech did the same thing, so they're not having to have a bus driver. We're trying to do anything we can to keep the bus drivers on the bus routes.
So they don't have to have an operational license?
They have to go and get a certification from Region 20, and they have to pass a test with our trainers.
But no CDL.
No CDL.
That's not due because of the size of the bus?
Yes, ma'am, it's a 14-passenger bus.
Bill, can I interject
Yes, ma'am.
on something? I wanted to share a comment that a very smart individual shared with me, and I wish I would have thought of it that night of the board meeting. And I know for a fact that this board is committed to students. I know this for a fact, and I know that not just the educational part, but the safety part is also just as important to the board. So what was commented to me is the true life of a bus driver. Most bus drivers probably wake up at least by 4 in the morning. At least, okay, by 4 in the morning. They start their route 5:30. There'll be a few that start it later, but usually by 5:30. So you've been awake since about 3 o'clock in the morning. Bus driving is a hard job. Hard job, not easy. You worked all day. Maybe if you were lucky, maybe you got to take a nap, but probably not in our reality of being short. You drove all day. At 5 o'clock, I'm going to send you to Houston. I'm going to send you to Houston with our kids, with our kids. Parents' most prized possession. And then at about 10:30, I'm going to send you back home to deliver our kids after whatever event it was. So though it might not have seemed to some people that the decision that the board made in spending that amount of money, some people might not see it in the best interest of our students. When you look at it in real life like that, I commend the board for that decision, because we are not putting then our students in jeopardy. Because I don't think that anybody would want that for their own daughter, for their own son or grandchild, to be driving with a bus driver. I love our bus drivers. This is nothing negative on our bus drivers, but the reality that an individual could have been awake since 3 in the morning, and then we're going to far places, windy roads. In the fall, deer come out. We want them to be alert, and we want the safest transportation for our kids. I hadn't thought about that, but a very smart man told me this. And I thought, wow, our board really is amazing, because I know it was tough on our board. I know it was tough. But when you think of it that way, it really is putting kids first.
And then they get the kids to the school, and not all the parents are there to pick them up. And they wait a little longer.
So just thank y'all for putting kids first.
That's what it's about.
I would say that I count on administration to have that same thought process. And, you bring proposals before us, and I thought long and hard before I supported that. I saw the need, we talked about it. But I think if there was any contention with that, it's just that we can't leave our transportation employees without opportunity. And you weren't here back then, Dr. Fields was, but we had a whole issue where we were looking to bring in a third party to do our child nutrition. It was an outsourced company that was going to outsource. And they were going to essentially just dismantle our current program, which wouldn't have been good for us. And so I have to just make sure we thought about that too, because at the end of the day, most of our transportation employees, custodial employees, they all live in the district. They all have a voice. So making sure that they were heard through the process. And the only thing I asked was just to make sure that if they want to work, that the company potentially would hire them. I don't know the life schedule of a bus driver. I don't know if they all have that predicament where they wake up at 3 in the morning. I don't know if that's every one of them, maybe. But I would hope that they too would understand safety first too. I can't be on the road if I've been up till 3 in the morning. But if they hadn't, and if we have part-time drivers that would like an opportunity, then certainly they should be able to. So I think collectively we have to balance all of that. And it's an important dialogue that we had. Ultimately, we supported it and we'll move forward. But I do remember to you stating we're not going to use all of it. This is essentially more than we probably need, and God willing, we don't need to use all of it. We just, if we hire the bus drivers that we're missing, we're 13 short, and get rid of, go forward that way.
And God willing, you're exactly right, because we've had a great job there so far. We're going to continue to have many more, and hopefully people will step up to want to drive, but it is a difficult job. But anyway, sorry, I got off on a tangent, but I just wanted to thank you.
I was right there with you on it.
Good information.
Thanks for sharing that.
So one of the other areas that, even though we increased the budget in technology in our general fund, we're not going to be able to maintain or grow that system without looking at updating our infrastructure, our performing arts areas that have been, just haven't had a lot of updating or maintenance to them. Our PA and announcement systems is kind of a safety thing that we need to work on. Safety and security, we talked about that the other evening with our cameras. Updating our learning environments, doing the makerspace things, and some of the stuff Ceci's doing with the blended learning campuses. And updating our classrooms and maintaining one-to-one. That is not going to be able to be supported in the budget. So we're going to have to find ways to finance some of these things. And then the last one is our facilities, and we know we have some deal, and we'll get a more detailed breakdown, but I did want to look at the 2016 bond projects that have been completed. So our M&I projects, I think we have one left, and that's Candlewood, and that's in design now. But all of the others have been finished. Of course, our 2 new elementaries are complete. The additions and renovations at Kirby and Kitty Hawk are complete. And then we had some miscellaneous projects that were done, and those are complete.
The bond finance reports you provide for us, board monthly?
Yes, sir.
How current are they? Are they behind, or?
They're 1 month behind.
They're 1 month.
Then we look at what projects we've got coming up. So we have some summer projects that we're going to be doing at Judson Middle and Metzger, as well as life skills modifications at Judson Middle School and Woodlake Hills. J-Care will be relocating into the JECC building, and the police department will be moving over to Pat Booker by JTech. In design, We have the sewer line replacement and the M&I at Candlewood. We still have roofing and covered walkways to do at Coronado Village, Bronze, Olympia. It's just the gym there in transportation. And we have parking lot upgrades at Franz and Judson Middle, and then the marquee at Wagner High School. And so most of those, like I said, I know these are going to get done in the summer. Some of these others may, just depends. We've had to change the roofing that we're going to use on Franz and Coronado and Olympia, just because we can't get some of the other roofing material. So we're having to redesign those. Yes, ma'am.
Bill, again, I have to interrupt. I'll try not to get on a tangent, right? But it fits into this bond conversation, I promise. With lots of minds coming together, we, I think, have figured out where the furniture is missing. I think it is at Wood Lake Elementary, and that's where the furniture is missing. Does that sound right, Ms. Stevens?
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Well, can I still let Helen talk about Wood Lake Elementary, and then I'm still going to meet you there then? Okay. Because
So yes, just like everything else, we're having a hard time.
You need to come over to a microphone. Sorry.
Microphone?
Yeah.
Okay.
Use that little box.
Yes, so just like many other building materials, we were having problem getting furniture as well. The good news is the furniture will be here for the makerspace and library at Wood Lake on May 6th. So it's almost here.
Helen, what did they use in between right now? Is it completely empty?
Cafeteria tables.
Yeah, cafeteria tables. It was empty for a short period of time, and then they moved cafeteria tables in there, and that's what they're utilizing now. And then we'll pull those out and put all the furniture in.
At Wood Lake or?
At Wood Lake.
Okay.
Wood Lake Elementary.
So tomorrow, Helen, I'll let you know what time so we can meet Ms. Eaton there at Candlewood, because we need to find out why that furniture is missing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll let
Thank
you know
you.
what time after I meet with Ms. Eaton.
Yes, ma'am.
Some of the other projects that are pending, we have repairs to the retaining wall at Converse, and now we have a second retaining wall at Converse. Copperfield, we have some work we're going to do there this summer because we have a transformer that has moved, and eventually it's going to cut the lines.
Oh, good.
And we'll lose the power, so we're going to have to redo that. And we also need to do some work under the floor and the crawl space. Masters, we know that the soil has swollen up and is under the bottom of the foundation, so we're going to have to do something there. Like I said, we're going to be working on the police department. We're working on the track right now, and we're working on the scoreboard right now. And then Veterans Memorial, the parking lot is in design up there to relieve that back parking lot. And then we are adding portables at Copperfield, Hartman, Rolling Meadows, and Wortham Oaks. And we're also doing the facilities assessment and the technology assessment by outside individuals to get a detailed look at what the needs are and concerns in our facilities and technology.
And what month will the assessment be? Will that be May, Ms. Keith?
So we have completed the internal assessment of all the district facilities. So we do have that done. Our staff's been working really, really hard to do just some preliminary investigations. We are in the process of sharing that with all the teams that we've hired to do elementary, middle school, high school, and all of our ancillary buildings. So we are sharing that information out as well. So those architects, engineers, they're in the process of doing those. We are doing all the elementaries currently. They're about halfway through. The elementary should complete, the assessments on the elementary should complete in the next 2 weeks per the schedule. The middle school assessments will likely start the middle of next week, and they'll finish at the first week of, where are we? Right, no, June, first week of June. And the high school's right behind, probably the second week of June.
Okay.
So we should be able to pull together some really good information. Our team did a great job too. The architects, engineers, they're all taking pictures as well. And so we've got every discipline out on our campuses, looking at our grounds, looking at the buildings, looking at the envelope, the roofing, the finishes, the age of the buildings, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Thank you.
yes, ma'am.
We finished our internal walk, which is the part of the needs that are there, and the external audit will be done. They just started. They started last week, so that should be done close to the end of the month or within the June timeframe.
Bill, I have a question. In regards to the bond projects that are completed, there is an unallocated portion. Can you talk to me a little bit about what's going to happen with that unallocated portion of the bond?
We are, right now, we've gotten permission to do projects from the board, but we have not moved funds yet. And so Helen is working on adjusting that so we can bring that to the board to move the funds to the correct projects. And then we will have a nice look at what's left. But the unallocated portion can be used on anything that has to do with repairing anything that was allowed in the original bond.
Okay, and you said that the board had already approved?
Yeah, like we did the scoreboard, we're doing J-Tech out of
So
2016.
those are unallocated?
Not in the.
They're approved projects, but we just haven't moved the funds from unallocated to them.
Okay. And so Prop 1 of 2016 had $3 million, I believe, that was unallocated.
Correct.
And are there any other, I can't think of the top of my mind, that have an unallocated?
All of them, even the 2017 has some unallocated.
So there's room still maybe even to address some of the facility need assessments, or would it have to be just within what was on the current bond project?
You can use it on any facility. You could buy buses with it because that was in part of the 2016 bond. But let us get all the money in the right places for the projects that are already approved. Make sure we have enough to do those, and then we'll see what's left.
Yeah, I'm just interested on that.
Yes, sir.
Even if you could provide an update, because I'm thinking we got $3 million, I'm waiting to see what we can do with it. So if it's already been allocated because we either formally or informally said, do that work.
Right.
Update the report so I could.
Right, that's what we're trying to do, is to get like the projects that are complete, let's get those funds and let's move them to a project that we're still working on.
And just for my clarity, there was $6 million unallocated, or $6 million in interest earned, I believe, I forget the exact term.
Unallocated.
Yeah, but $3 million of it was unallocated, but $3 million was allocated, and it was a clean $3 million. So was that for a land purchase?
That was for J-Tech, that was the purchase of the land and for the renovations.
Okay.
Now, I can tell you, we're not going to be able to complete it for the $3 million. We're going to have to come back for a little more, especially for the roofs.
And that's fine. I have a, I might as well put it up. I do want to see ESSER and title fund budgets as well.
Okay.
That wasn't provided here, just for review. We'd just like to know where we're allocating our title money and what the new updated ESSER fund. We had, when's the last time we received one last fall? An ESSER fund budget in our finance?
Probably, I
No,
didn't
it's
get
been
one
longer
done
than that.
this,
You asked
I
for
didn't
one,
get
you
one
got it.
done this month because I was off Friday.
Yeah, it's been
I
a couple of months.
I try and do them the Friday of the board meeting, that's what I
But
try
I
to
do
do.
want detail. You have, like I said, I'm really looking at that social emotional item of the budget for us, or
Mhm.
3 million or 4 million or 5, whatever is allocated. If there's no allocation, if it doesn't exist yet because we haven't gone to that phase, then that's understandable. But I'd like to know more or less what the breakdown is in those pockets, because when you guys brought the $1 million for the big screens, that came out of ESSER, but I wouldn't have known it was coming out of this bucket. I'd like to have a better understanding so we can talk through it.
I just have one little question about, over at Wagner. If by any chance the field is on any of those lists, or was that going to be a part of another bond project to fix that, the football field in the back for training and the track?
It is not in the ESSER funds, no.
No,
Oh,
but
okay.
was it attached to any of these bonds? The 2016,
No, ma'am.
2017?
No, ma'am.
Well, we're gonna attach it to the one that failed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So if we have some money left over, is it possible to use that to fix that field? Or do we have to wait till we do the bond?
It is if we have enough. That's going to be an expensive fix to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, sir.
But I would love to get that.
We need to fix that.
I thought you were bringing something to us in terms of what that might look like.
Well, we are, but once we are finished, because once I bring it, you're gonna say, well, how much money do you have, Dr. Ball?
I'm expecting we have to use fund balance, but the question that hasn't been answered in conjunction with that is, can we recoup those dollars? And that's something that I think you said you were going to confirm. You said you don't think so, but you had to confirm if we can spend fund balance money and a year from now put it on the ballot for a bond and recoup it.
And put the money back?
And put the money
Again,
back.
soft costs such as design, geotech, all of that, you can do it 18 months in advance.
And that would count? You're telling me that would
Right. So
fall under that umbrella?
right. So if we started design within 18 months of when we sold the bonds, then we could have a reimbursement resolution and reimburse funds for that. Construction is a 6 months limitation. So you're allowed to start construction 6 months before you sell the bonds and reimburse yourself.
And how about land acquisition?
Land acquisition, I would have to check. I'm going to say that's probably going to land in the,
I thought it was 3 years.
yeah, I'm going to have to look on that one.
But so certainly then the answer to the question is yes, there is a small window where we can actually recoup that expenditure
Yes, sir.
in a future bond if we need to.
Yes, sir.
Give it a shot. Okay.
So, moving forward, we've got the growth and planning going. Do we want to continue that work?
And that work is planned to lead us to a future bond. So I would love to hear from each board member if that is something that you would like for us to continue to do,
The growth and planning?
to lead us to a bond.
We have so many needs in the district that we cannot address with fund balance that we have to go out and get a bond for. I think we have to continue to move forward and go back to the citizens and be explicit and clear about what the money's for. And really, I know all the issues with the pandemic made it more difficult to reach out to the constituents, to have them come in to see exactly what it is that we're talking about. But yeah, I think we have to move forward. I personally do.
Yeah, and I think it's very important that, the community knows exactly the needs for the district and what that looks like and the understanding.
And give their input.
And we have to be, I'm sorry, you done? And we have to be very clear, because I went to do my early voting, and San Antonio's going to have the same, ISD, they're going to have the same problem we're going to have. Because they got bond issues on there that are this long, and at the very bottom it says, this is a tax increase, when they put it out there as a no tax increase bond. So we have to find a way to explain to the public that this is something that's out of our control, that it just is going to be placed on that ballot. But if it doesn't require a tax increase, we have to make that very, very clear to them, because I feel in my heart of hearts, that's why our bond failed. Because we have been saying all along, no tax increase, no tax increase, and there was not going to be a tax increase. But you go to the poll and you're reading it, and the last thing it says is, this is a tax increase. So we, some kind of way, need to be better prepared to explain to them that that portion is out of our control. But this is what is getting ready to happen. Because Mr. Macias even brought up the point that, even with us saying it, the taxes still went up. It didn't have anything to do with us. And it wasn't going to have anything to do with it. And as I've been going through my tax statements, Comal County went up 98% on my property taxes. Unheard of. So I'm fighting everybody right now. But yeah, We've got to figure out how to get people to understand we're being open, transparent, clear, honest as we can be. If it's not a tax increase, it's not. Because we can't just openly lie to the public like that. Not saying we did, but I'm just saying, we cannot control them. We can't ask them to not print that there. I called several people about it. They're gonna print it.
Great dialogue, so,
You were at the meeting last night?
no.
Okay. The growth planning, to address your question, we should always ensure that we're engaging our community. That mechanism is an engagement tool, and it goes up and down in attendance, but the community's engaged. The reality is we could go for a bond as early as next May, or maybe a little longer, but it's going to be within a certain time period. So continuously addressing the deficiencies in the district is important. We already have a list. I don't know if you want to enhance that list, but we still need HVACs in our gyms. We still need the track to be addressed. We still need facility improvement. So those
Still need
things
new
don't
schools.
diminish. And, yeah, we need a middle school, we need an elementary school. So those things do not diminish, but I don't know if you just take that list and you add on to it again, or if you just report out, like you met at Wagner yesterday. So if you continue to go into facilities to point out what the issues are, if whatever it is, I would just say continue to do that. But I would also take a moment to say that in terms of board committees, we as a board need to understand what the board's role is in this board committee. Growth and planning is a board committee, right?
Yes.
So inserting board members at welcoming folks, it's almost as simple as that. It's a board advisory. Let's talk like a board advisory. And I don't see them. And that's something the board, we need to hash out. But we love our administration, but it feels like it's an administration-led committee rather than a board advisory. We should be combined and working together. So I'm just inserting that in sort of how we can move forward together in that respect. But your general question, yes, let's move forward with it. And we will do our work on the board level to find out how, if at all, do we adjust it or do we leave it the same, or how we manage the meeting.
The only thing I would have to say to that, you are probably correct, but those board liaisons that are committed to those committees, they have to be there.
Of course, I agree. But, I mean, that's just something we all have to talk through. I mean, no doubt.
So we'll definitely have a lot more information to bring, I know that Helen will have very, a specific and lengthy information. So when you ask, will we probably be adding? Probably, because once you start looking and seeing, more things are needed. I know that Ms. Gosh will probably also have more things to add to the list. So what I'm hearing is continue to engage the committee.
Yeah.
Continue to peel back the onion and see what other needs we have, and then ultimately bring that to the board and see where we go from there. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
If I could also add one other element that may have, it could be included, but I'm working with District 2 City Councilman Jalen to determine what greater support they can bring to the schools within the San Antonio District 2 arena. And so it made me think, in my area, it's largely unincorporated. I will ask Commissioner Calvert, what more can you do? And what I'm trying to say is that we've been able to fund community centers in the unincorporated area. We've been able to do projects with the county, with the city. And so I would ask if you connect with the city of San Antonio and say, what can we do? Rolling Meadows is even in San Antonio. So,
Well, the Star Park is a perfect example of Mr. Atkins engaging with them.
Sure.
So we are.
the bank, you mean, or was it the Star? What is it called?
The Spark Park.
Sorry, I called it.
No, I told you. Do that.
Because that's what's happening tomorrow. That's what's happening tomorrow. Star test.
Yeah, so anyway, just that element, 'cause I want to hold the city accountable that Judson is part of San Antonio, and they have enormous resources, but I don't feel they're leveraging them on our side as often. We're seen as this suburban district when we do have community members that are the city of San Antonio. I'm trying to figure out what district Rolling Meadows is, if it's District 8 or 10, but, you know,
Bear County, I believe. Bear County.
I thought Rolling Meadows was based
In
in
the city?
San Antonio, it's in the San Antonio city limits. So I'm trying to figure out which city council district it's in, but I'll find out. But there are 5 schools. Woodlake Hills Middle School is in San Antonio proper, and so those institutions can receive some support, they need the support. So I'm just asking Dr. Ball that you evaluate those partnerships. And I'm excited about the UP partnership, and obviously I plan to be at the press conference on Thursday. And I want to kind of see what that excitement looks like. So I see opportunity.
Absolutely. I do too. Other questions or comments? Because this is the opportunity for, on these topics, for the board to give us any direction. That's what we need, is to continue to talk, whether it's about the budget. I have to look at the agenda exactly how it was worded on there. Can I borrow Ms. Eaton's real quick? I know it said budget. These are the things.
I think it's budget, compensation, and facilities.
Yes, ma'am.
So other things that the board would like for us to talk about in regards to budget, compensation, and facility, that's what's on the agenda.
If I could add a note, I don't know where it fits, and again, this is preliminary. I didn't expect to have all the answers here
Right,
today.
this is just the beginning.
But I do want to look at support for TAG type of programs in our budget. We've gotten away from that. We're half, teachers doing half TAG and half something else. So one of the things I've always heard is, what is our pathway for elementary that is a TAG type of curriculum? And so when we have our program review with curriculum, I point to you because you're no longer curriculum, so forgive me assessing. But bottom line, talking through that, because I want to allocate resources for something that I think would be very valuable in our elementary.
I'll put that as my note.
Just because I will ask what we need to do for that. So if we need heads up, that's of interest to me.
Sounds good. Any other ones?
No, this is a good start.
Bill, could you please remind me if you know the date by memory as to when is our next one?
I believe our official budget is,
Our next meeting?
I think it's June 2nd.
Bill, do you think we should have another one before then?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
It's getting very difficult because of graduations and everything. So I'm not trying to be rude, but I'm going to set one, and I'm hoping as many people can come, because there is something going on almost every
Every day.
night in May.
Right.
So I am going to set it for May the 16th. And
If I may suggest, May 21st, we're already convening for a program review. We're only doing 3 departments. I don't expect that we're going to take 4 hours to review 3 departments. So you may be able to fit budget as half and half, and we do that. Because program review kind of borders along budget anyway, because we're looking at year to date and year over year. So if I may suggest that possibility, I think that could work too, rather than having to find another date. Just use the 21st when we're meeting to split that time.
I'm good with that. Is that Bill?
It is,
May 21st is
Yes.
Right, and that's when
and the board meeting is the 19th.
Right.
Could we adopt the compensation plan that night?
On the 19th,
No, on the 21st.
I wouldn't be comfortable, I haven't seen it. But
Right, so
Yeah.
that's why we want to have it before the 19th,
you want to have
another meeting.
you want to adopt the compensation plan before a May 19th meeting?
No, well, I
At
wanted to adopt it at the May 19th meeting,
Right, so that's
because
why I'd
then
like
we
us
have
to meet at
to, we have to
that
put that
You have a
into
lot
the
of work to get
system.
back to us before that.
Right, but I think what we're saying is we would like to have a budget workshop before the 19th of May, so that we could just look at compensation.
And finalize and do
And
any
give us
adjustments.
Adjustments or whatever, and then we can bring the final one at the 19th regular board meeting. And,
Why would we pass it so early?
Because it'll help us a lot on our retention and our recruiting of teachers. It'll help us a lot in our retention.
Well, because we have to have our budget passed by the 30th of June, right?
And that's very late for
Okay, and I would like to have it in August, because we always get those other boards that have August approval date, we lose out because they know exactly what we're doing. But that's another point. So then what are we passing in June? If we pass the compensation?
The budget.
Everything else?
Yeah.
Right, because it will take us a good 3 weeks to finalize everything where we have a final budget for it, especially if you want to see a line-by-line budget.
What I want to do is not feel rushed. Right now, it's starting to feel, if you're trying to have something before us to review in another meeting, I don't know if we'll be ready. I mean, I would hope we could. But as Dr. Ball mentioned, we have graduations, we have retirement, we have all kinds of things
Okay,
happening.
Right, so let's do this. Let's have one on the 10th, okay? May the 10th. I don't want you to feel rushed. If we need to, we have another one then on the 16th. Okay, if we were to still need to, the 19th we could cover it and then go back on the 21st.
Remind me, have we approved compensation and our general budget in separate meetings in the past?
Yes. Last year, we approved compensation really early
Last year-
for retention.
I
So
just get the feeling we've done it all at once. I just
No.
can't remember having it.
the last 2
split.
years, we've done it separately.
We don't have to formally adopt it, but
I
we
can
have to
live with
make
that. I can
we have
live
to
with
make a
that.
decision.
Because we do
Right.
have to adopt our budget by June 30th, and if we're going to do all of it, it has to be collective. I would just feel nervous about doing it so soon. I see the advantage of being able to put it out there. I agree with that part of it. But if the community knows that this is what we are tentatively approving, it meets that goal.
I don't know.
No.
I would be worried that our teachers want to know. Our teachers.
Oh, they would, if we adopt something tentatively, but I would hate to say it's in stone, and then
We
we go
can't
back and
adopt
do the
tentatively.
whole budget.
Well, how do you
That's not a
adopt
thing.
it tentatively?
Yeah, you
That's
can't.
not a thing.
You would say that we support this. There's consensus on this is the
I'm
budget.
good with moving ahead and having these meetings and getting that out there so the teachers
I'm not
know
disagreeing
what's...
with the meetings. I just, again, practice is all, we approve all of it at once.
No.
I'm just kind of trying to think through why we split it, and more so why we're rushing. I'm thinking I have all June 30th to really review compensation, and we don't. 19th of May is your objective.
If we want to retain teachers, we need to be sure that they understand that this is what we are committed to.
We can surely
And we've-
showcase it, and they'll know. But, I mean,
But we have had things that have come up and then have not been approved,
Or changed?
or things have been changed, and
well,
so,
technically, we can still change compensation up until the 30th of June. I mean, it can be put on the agenda and changed again.
I'd like us
So-
to see us go ahead with it. How about
So-
you, Miss Michelle?
Yeah, and I'm thinking about those teachers, and even when I was in that position, you would like to know before you leave what your salary is going to be.
And again, I'm not disagreeing with you guys. I'm just saying we don't have to adopt it yet. Let's be real, let's talk about it, let's have a workshop, let's say this is what we're going to do. I just need to make sure I'm comfortable with us adopting it so early.
We did it last year. It was real successful because teachers knew, and then they weren't out there looking and leaving us because they didn't know. And in the situation we're in now, with a teacher shortage, it's vital that we show our teachers what we're willing to pay them at an early stage.
Okay, I mean, we're like,
Let's try. Let's see. Everybody, our next budget meeting is going to be May the 10th. I'm not saying we're approving anything. We're going to come back and talk. We're going to keep on talking until everybody feels comfortable.
and that's fine, and just
We're
because
just talking.
I want to be clear to those that might be listening online, and obviously those here, I want to know too. I want to get to a point where we're comfortable with compensation. It just needs to be done right, and I don't want to feel rushed. But if we can do it. I agree, let's have these meetings, I completely agree, and then move forward.
So
And then-
right now, everybody, please mark your
Okay,
calendar.
that May 10th.
May
Uh-huh.
10th
Mhm.
and May 16th. I want to make sure that the board feels very well informed. I think the board is always committed to give a lot of time and give you a lot of information, and you give us information.
So based on what we talked about today, you'll be able to start putting that together
Oh,
for us.
absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
have that information.
Yeah,
We will start tomorrow.
Okay.
At what time?
at 5 o'clock.
So we'll start at 5 for each one, like we
Yes,
did today?
ma'am.
Okay.
May 10th at
Okay.
5 o'clock, May 16th at
Okay,
5
got
o'clock.
it.
And then if need to keep going back, Bill and Scott are committed to redrafting, reworking, and bringing it back until the board feels 100%.
Okay.
Thank you, board.
Thank
That's all
y'all.
that we have.
Okay.
Okay.
If there's nothing else, then this meeting is adjourned at 6:50. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. On Friday, how did you schedule look on Friday?
10 minutes before I thought we could